Okay. I'm here with Democratic candidate, Eric Epstein. And so, Eric, I'm here today, and what I really wanted to ask you is your feeling on the Constitution, freedom of speech, press. I recently had an incident at the Lebanon County Courthouse where I actually was attacked to go do a story on the commissioners. And so I just wanted to get your feel for what you feel, the Constitution, the freedom of press, and that.
Let me answer it three ways. The fourth estate of the media right now is basically the only thing keeping democracy afloat at the national level. I mean, at least in my opinion, we have a rogue administration. So if you look at newspaper readership, and if you look at newspaper reporting, we're revisiting the bygone era of investigative journalists who I think have done incredible work. Basically uncovering things that are contrary to the American way. So number one, I think when it comes to the fourth estate, the media, especially the print media, there's been a resurgence which is absolutely necessary. Secondly, when it comes to your media, you guys are pioneers. You're trying to essentially establish yourself as, and it's unfortunate because you shouldn't have to establish yourself. You're probably the most used media there are. But if it weren't for the social media, and anybody knows this, if you look every day on television, it's social media that's being essentially holding politicians' feet to the fire. So yeah, we have the print media, which I, adore, and a lot of the times that is used by radio and television. We have the social media, which right now is reaching millions of people on a real-time basis. And that's the great thing about your media is it's unfiltered. Folks don't have the time to edit, revise, scrub, clean it up. And third, and most importantly, is that one of the things that's occurring, and at least I'm seeing it from my vantage point, when you take all the media together, is that people are really glued to the TV, listening to the radio, reading the newspapers, trying to get information because we live in the era of chaos. And one of the stabilizing elements in the era of chaos is media. Doesn't matter if it's internet, doesn't matter if it's social network, doesn't matter if it's print media. The problem is we have all these portals of information, which are absolutely invaluable to the First Amendment and Constitution. And sometimes people aren't really good at filtering fact from fiction. And that's something we still need to, in my mind, work on. Sometimes people, let me just say this, a lot of times people can just go to the network they want, Fox, CNN, and have them reinforce negative stereotypes or reinforce the information flow we have. Again, that's why I would put you guys down in the social networks as on the front lines. Look at your incident recently. You were essentially, in my mind, had your civil rights violated. Your constitutional ability to cover an event at a public building, presided over by public officials, was trampled. And that we're doing this interview now to make sure people are aware of that. I don't think people are. They just assume that the media has access to public officials, and it's not true. Even within the media, there's a class. So for folks now that are pioneers like you are in social media, you constantly, especially at the local level, have to break new ground. One other thing I would note out is if you look at newspapers like the Patriot, they don't cover school districts, they don't cover municipalities, they don't cover county politics. It's up to the micro news, the hypersensitive news, and that includes you, that includes the Town Gazette, that includes Swan, that includes a lot of folks out there because people just don't know what's going on locally. And again, the media, that's the only outlet right now that I think is preserving the balance of power.
Yeah. And would you agree that government needs to be basically micromanaged? I mean, it's the accountability of government, what they're doing with their tax money, and if you get elected, how do you expect to overcome what's been happening, the whole, holding government accountable and work on that whole issue.
First, I'll give you an example. Today, I was in receipt of right to know requests that I filed that go back to the Me Too movement. We just found out that, at least 2 legislators had the state taxpayer dollars used to pay off a sexual complaint against them. What you do is, I keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to change. You file right to know requests, you file FOIA requests, you keep digging. You're not satisfied with the answer doesn't sound right. You go through audits. A lot of keeping the Constitution intact, keeping the texture of society vibrant requires hard work. And I mean, that's what a lot of people you know, if they're not willing to invest in democracy, you know, they could lose the dividends. I mean, you have to actively and aggressively and consistently keep punching away, gnawing away to get this information. And I mean, you paid a big price. I mean, essentially, you were mugged for trying to get to the truth.
Right.
People need to know it. That's an assault on the media. That's an assault on the free press. That's an assault on the Constitution. It can't be tolerated.
Yeah, and I believe like we've in this country we've basically lost the right of the Second Amendment now. I mean, if you walk down the street carrying a gun, instantly you would be swarmed upon. And now I believe they're coming after the First Amendment, the right to free press.
Well, here's the problem, and I say this to a lot of people who support the Second Amendment and the 10th Amendment. You don't selectively get to choose which amendments you support.
Absolutely.
In fact, I would ask you, do you know how many amendments we have? I'll flip the table on you. Do you know?
I want to say 18.
27.
Oh, okay.
27. So when I have people out asking me to defend the Constitution, the first question I say is, you have to defend all 27 amendments. And the last amendments were actually very important. One raised the voting age that we had in the 70s, and another made it illegal for Congress to increase their pay raise midterm. So again, people say, I'm all about the First Amendment, or I'm all about the Second Amendment, or the 10th Amendment. You have to be about them all. That's your obligation as elected official. You may not necessarily agree with them all, but hey, you swear an oath to the Constitution. You don't get to play multiple choice.
Right.
This isn't Jeopardy.
And we need laws, when we make new laws or legislation or policies, they need to be parallel with the Constitution. They can't just arbitrarily be a rule that doesn't follow the Constitution.
That's why I have a court system, but one of the things I would point out, when Congress or the Pennsylvania legislature makes laws, those laws should apply to that. Oftentimes are exempt from the laws they make. And that has to stop. We can't have a two-tier system. We can't have a class system. It's the same thing I just said with the Constitution. You have to embrace all the amendments. Most people don't embrace the federal tax, but it's the law. This has been held up by court. So that's a delicate balance, and I think most people are unaware what the Bill of Rights are, what the amendments are. I think most people are unaware of their own Constitution. And if you're unaware, it means you're not exercising the rights, and we don't exercise their rights like any exercise. If you're not in shape,
you lose those rights.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, is there any? Thanks for taking the time to do this interview. Is there anything else you'd like to add as far as
democracy's hard work? I've said it, a zillion times. I've been interviewing when I'm on the radio. If you don't vote, then you're not in the game, and if you're not in the game, you don't have a voice.
Okay.
You have to vote. And I know a lot of times you say there's no good candidates, and it's a lesser of two evils or the evil of two lessers. But what's fundamental, and you're going to see it in the midterm elections, what's fundamental is people who register to vote, people who turn out to make the decisions. Sit at home, you're out. I mean, the last thing I would say is it's phenomenal that almost 10 years ago in the Bush administration, you saw Iraqis dodge bullets to vote, and we won't even dodge rainbows.
Right.
That should tell us something.
Yeah, so get off your couch, people. Get out there and make a difference and make some change.
It's hard to change the world when you're watching ESPN and eating cheese doodles.
Yes.
I prefer if you go to the poll, register to vote, and be actively engaged.
Okay.
Thanks for taking the time.
All right. Yeah, my name is Charlie, and it's Frontline Media.
All right, Charlie.
And thanks. All right. Bye.